All right, if I've done this correctly, it's all going to be seamless. Hopefully my tech problems are solved here. But to get back to ethos, once again, it's about the speaker or the writer being able to establish trust, credibility, and authority. In other words, this is a person or a source that is worthy of being believed. How do people establish that? Well, they can appeal to their trustworthiness. If they're known as being truthful, that is a quality of ethos. Similarity to the audience gets used a lot too. I'm just like you. Authority, not being like authority like necessarily, in law enforcement, but being like an expert on a subject. Reputation, being known as a person with a certain level of expertise or with a certain sense of fame for doing the right thing or somehow related to the topic at hand, also important. Sincerity, having, again, an established sense of being earnest and not messing around when it comes to, making large claims, also works. And we see the use of experts happen all the time, right? One of the biggest times is in commercials, right? Colgate reduces plaque up to 98%. So says this actor playing a dentist. But again, here we are, look. Authority. This guy's an actor, but he's playing a dentist, and somehow that clicks in our mind. Okay. I know he's an actor, but, he looks like a dentist. And somehow it still seeps in, or at least, these marketers and these advertisers think so. And notice that if we think he's an authority, we might associate some of these other traits with him as well. So how do you establish ethos in your essay? There are lots of different ways, but one of them is by doing the dance, the academic writing dance. And that includes your MLA formatting, using academic or what I sometimes call professional English. If you wouldn't put it in a business letter, you're not going to put it into, a piece of writing here. We got to be able to switch into that particular code. Trustworthy research sources, that means no Wikipedia. Get used to our databases. Clear motives, in other words, you make it really, really upfront what you are trying to prove or what you're trying to convince your audience of. Now think about this. Think about this sense of ethos. Now, who's Trump trying to appeal to here? This is at, I believe, an African-American church somewhere in the Midwest. But he's trying to establish ethos here by saying that, he can be a leader for all kinds of different people. Now, you might ask yourself if he's established that ethos through that appearance and balancing that out against all of the other things that you know about him that he has said or he's done. How far does a photo op go? Finally, you've got your logos, appealing to reason. And this actually helps get to the intellectual side of the argument, something that's a little more objective and scientific. So that can be things like facts, research, diagrams, charts and examples, definitions, but it's also other things, logical reasoning. If you know how to do a syllogism, for example, which is a form of deductive reasoning that's in your reading, that will also work. Shared wisdom, things that you and your audience as, community members all agree upon too. Now, other ways to look at it is that if you're a Star Trek fan, your argument is the Enterprise, and you've got logos or logic, Spock, arrangement, evidence, and of course logic. Ethos, he's credible because he's a doctor. He's kind of the medical expert on the ship, being a doctor. His last name is Bones. That's weird. Maybe he got pushed into the field, like, your last name is Bones. It's his first name, actually. And Pathos, Kirk makes a lot of emotional decisions and a lot of emotional speeches, and sometimes they're very persuasive, But again, they all kind of come together and in general balance it out. Do most arguments have that same kind of easy tie up at the end of, a 1 hour episode? Maybe not, but here's one way to think of it. And finally, you may want to think about what's going on with Braveheart. If you've ever seen that movie, that's a really important speech at the end. I'll punch the link here at the bottom. I don't think it's going to go through. Is using pathos, ethos, and logos. Think about that next time you see somebody make a big rallying speech in a movie. It doesn't happen too often, but this is a great one here. I'll post a link to it too. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it stick on this. Anyway, that's all I got for this. Thanks for watching, everybody.